This series contains adult language and descriptions of graphic violence. Listener discretion is advised.
Let's just ask the people later.
Okay.
Let's focus in.
We're going to focus in.
What episode is this? What number?
I think this is 47, but I'm not 100%
Your
on
age.
that. Shut the hell up.
Come on. See, I'll always be better at that. I'm really good at that.
And we're back. Hello. To the listeners, not to Jenna, because I've seen her all weekend and said hello plenty of times.
Hello.
Here we are. It's been a while. Well, it hasn't been that long because we just recorded a bonus episode about 5 minutes ago, but
Well, I haven't recorded an episode
in forever, I feel like a really
since
long time.
A couple weeks before you left.
Yeah.
So a month, let's say.
At least, yeah. So let me say our little intro here. Welcome back to Death by Southwest, the podcast where each week I share a different grisly murder story unique to the American Southwest, while my sister and co-host tries to piece together the clues and unravel the mystery behind each of these heinous crimes. I'm your host, Margot.
And I'm Jenna.
And today we are heading to a picturesque cabin nestled among the Utah mountains, where in 1990, a family planned to spend a cozy and festive holiday season with their grandmother and other family members traveling from out of town. But what was supposed to be the happiest time of year quickly turned into the deadliest, as their beloved mountain retreat became the scene of a brutal, callous, and senseless crime. And there you go. That's it. Thanks for listening.
Bye-bye. Night-night.
Yeah, we're going to jump right into our sense of place in a second, but I told Jenna that I was going to...
We're going to jump right in a second.
Well, I told Jenna two things. I said that while I was in Belize, I did not really get on social media. I didn't look at my phone that often, but I did when we got back read any reviews on Apple, and there's been a consistently shitty reviews for the past few weeks, and it's been people who I think are new listeners, and so I don't know whether they're starting at the beginning, middle, or like most recently, but it has been a lot of too long of an intro, too much banter, which is, nothing new necessarily, but I want to be very, very mindful of that.
You're being unmindful of it right now.
I know. But we are going to jump into the sense of place in one moment. But we were just talking about how we went out to eat on Friday night, which is, I don't often go out to eat. And anyways, we were saying it would be fun for bonus episodes for us to go to a new to us restaurant or bar, or do an activity here in Tucson or the surrounding areas in Arizona, and then kind of talk about it and either recommend it or say don't go here, or if you do go here, get this, etc., etc. And then also just have our kind of regular conversation. Are you looking at reviews right now? Not great. There's some not great ones, which is fine, and they're not wrong. They're not inaccurate.
There's not that many. I mean, there's a couple new ones.
Yeah. Not that many new ones, but the new ones are not good.
I find them interesting.
I like that one of them says, like, I'm at 12 minutes and 55 seconds, and they haven't even gotten to the sense of place yet, or something like that, right?
I'll pass.
Yeah, I'll pass, yeah. So for that person, look, they're
not listening.
That's true. I was going to say we're only about 4 minutes in.
Well, yeah, we're heading right up to 12, though.
No, we're not gonna get to 12. We're gonna jump into our sense of place. We did catch up on a few life things on the bonus episode. So
just listen to the bonus episode if you want to catch up on us.
Yes, and otherwise we're gonna jump right into our sense of place, which is OAKLEY, Utah, which is a small town located in Summit County. It's known for its stunning natural surroundings, rich history, and a close-knit community. It's in the northeastern part of Utah. I I want to say it's about 45 minutes east of Salt Lake City, I believe. I thought I had that in here, but
Which
I
is
don't.
the capital.
Uh-huh.
I'm all, look at me. I said the capital of Utah.
Well, I mean, we've done a lot of Utah ones, so I feel like we should know something about it. The population in Oakley, it's very small, 1,600 people. I had about that many people in my graduating high school class. I mean, that is teeny tiny. It is pretty up there. The elevation's about 6,500 feet. Weather, winters are very cold, very snowy, much due to the elevation. Spring can be kind of cool still. Summers are pleasant, comfortably warm, not too hot. And fall, I'd imagine, is quite beautiful as it's starting to... I'd make a good meteorologist. No.
That's what I started my degree in when I went to NAU.
I remember you saying that recently. I did not know that, actually.
Oh, why would you?
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't like broadcasting it.
I could totally see you being a meteorologist.
I love all the things behind it. I don't
I
want to be
know.
on camera.
I know. Anywho. So the town was settled in the late 1850s by Mormon pioneers, initially established as a farming community. It still has a lot of agriculture and rural kind of feeling to it today. It's surrounded by mountains, popular with outdoor enthusiasts. Farming is a big part of the local economy and tourism. Some fascinating facts.
Can I ask a question first?
Absolutely.
I'm certain you don't have the answer because I haven't had a question yet, by the way. You're getting to know what my questions will be.
Sure.
But you said it's big in agriculture. What's their main crop? Corn?
Ranching is
cows.
cows.
Okay.
Ranching is a big part of the local economy.
Okay, there we go.
I actually had the answer. It does also say farming, and I don't have an answer in terms of farming.
I mean, can't farming be ranching?
I think ranching is ranching, and farming is farming. Maybe not.
Farming would be a crop.
Yeah, that's what I picture.
Right. So what's their main crop?
That I don't know.
Well, that is what I asked actually initially, and then I just let that cow thing be the answer. Okay, fine.
Thank you. So some interesting facts about Oakley, which I thought a town of 1,600, there's no way I'm going to find any interesting facts about this place. Like, it's very small, but I was incorrect. It's very well known for having well-preserved historic buildings, and there's a collection of over 100 Victorian-style houses, some which date back to the 1800s.
Because there's not as many people to like plow through them.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I don't know if that's true. That's just where my head went.
There's the annual Oakley Rodeo every 4th of July. It's one of the oldest rodeos in Utah and is one of the most significant events in the town. It has a thriving arts community despite its small size. I was going to say due to its small size. Hosts the Oakley Valley Arts Council, which promotes local artists. There's often, on a monthly basis, art shows, concerts, and lots of theater performances. There's an annual celebration in Oakley also called Potato Days. So that tells me that is the farming. Because
there you go. There's the answer.
Yeah, Potato Days is a fun-filled event that honors the town's agricultural roots.
There it is.
There's potato picking contests, parades, live music, and plenty of local food vendors selling potato-based dishes. And it's a popular place because it feels apparently very Western-y. It has a strong Western ambiance. And so they've filmed a handful of different Western movies there. And I looked up what movies. And it's funny because the first one that came up was Touched by an Angel, which is not a movie. It's a TV show. And it's not a Western.
Oh, I can kind of picture that.
I can't. Touched by an Angel, I wanted to think it was Jennifer Love Hewitt, but that's Ghost Whisperer. I kind of remember Touched by an Angel, but I can't picture who's in it or what it's about. But
so you really can't picture it.
But
so what other Western movie?
The Stand at Apache River in 1953, starring Stephen McNally and Julie Adams.
Julie Adams. Wait, is she?
Ooh, I see the wheels is turning.
With the umbrella.
Lady Liberty?
The umbrella.
Singing in the Rain,
the
Charlie
nanny.
Chaplin?
No, the
Mary Poppins. That's
Yeah.
Julie Andrews.
Shit. Go on.
That was good, though. Unconquered in 1947, directed by Cecil B. DeMille, who... Oh, God. The color purple, maybe?
Here we go.
I
Now
know.
we're going to get shit for this.
Yeah, I know. I should know. I don't.
Also, if you don't, just say the names. We can pretend we know. Like, it's like, wow. Like this.
Cecil B. DeMille.
Yeah. And just move on. Let the listeners think in their little brains. Big
Okay.
brains.
Cecil B. DeMille, not the color purple. Cleopatra, the Ten Commandments,
Huh.
things like that. And
Well, what's the 10?
Against a Crooked Sky in 1975 is a family-oriented Western film. So those are just a few. And that's it. That's really what I have on Oakley. I do have 3 fun facts or interesting facts about Utah in general. And I think we may have mentioned these before. So this is either going to be new or this is going to be a testing your memory of Utah, which Jenna's giving me a look like.
Both are
screw
going to be
you.
bad, but go ahead.
Okay, so we have talked about the weird liquor laws in Utah.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't remember. I know we had mentioned that, but I couldn't remember specifically what they were. Do you?
Something about bars. Something about bars?
Good job. Yes. Wow, I didn't remember that at all. I thought
Something
it.
about bars. Hold on.
Yeah, you're 100% right.
Like what? They can only give you so many, or they pour to a strict thing, or
I don't know. That may be true. That's
Okay,
not
what
what I
is it?
have.
Say
So
it.
one of the weird quirks is that bars and restaurants have to operate as private clubs, which means that patrons have to become temporary members or purchase a membership in order to buy alcoholic drinks.
which is like that just means one more hoop. Not
Yeah.
that there's so many hoops to go buy liquor or go to
Sure.
a bar, but it's a hoop you have to jump through.
Right. I mean, if I had to become a member of a place,
You do it.
I would do it, but then I would only go there. I wouldn't become like a member to 10 different bars.
Well,
you know
that's
what I mean?
I also wonder that.
Oh,
if
could you get like
become-
a
if
fast
you-
pass at Disneyland where you can go to all the bars?
Right. If you become if you are a card carrying member of the bars
I'm a
or
drinker.
one bar. Yeah.
What does that card look like?
Well,
Loves booze.
I think about this like when we were in Barcelona. When we were in Barcelona, Michael wanted to go to I don't know what you call it, like a not a weed store, but like it was a bar.
Oh, okay.
No, it was like a bar you could hang out, drink,
And-
play games, and purchase marijuana.
Okay.
And we had to get
A card.
a card,
Ah.
and I believe it kind of let us within Barcelona. We could use that
Got it.
black card
Sure.
to get. We did have to like fill out paperwork and all this, but then
You could use it at multiple places.
Yeah.
It wasn't just one establishment.
so that's where my mind went.
Interesting.
But that may not be that.
I
And
didn't-
also today, that might be totally different because that was in 2017, 2018, whatever.
God, it was.
Yeah, that was. I mean, that was like when we moved
That was
into that house.
Yeah, that was 6 years ago. Wow. Interesting. I guess I didn't think about if like Spain, if marijuana was legal in Spain or not. It is though, obviously.
Well,
To a degree.
Yeah, I'm guessing either it's the same amount of legal now
Or
more.
more. Yeah, got it. So that's the interesting quirky liquor law fact.
Okay, so I'm gonna put that in. This
I
thing.
have 2 more. I'm going to give the more boring one now.
Perfect.
Utahns, which is
Is that
what
how you say it?
apparently it's it's UTAHNS. Utahns have a particular inclination towards soda, and I think we did also talk about that.
We did, but I can't remember. Also, Jello.
Mormons, yes, like green Jello,
Okay.
and I don't remember why.
Doesn't matter. Soda.
Soda. The state has one of the highest soda consumption rates in the entire country, and there's a unique phenomenon called soda wars, which occurs between locally owned soda shops, and they compete by who can offer the most interesting customized soda flavors and mixes.
I love a flavored and mixed soda, like
Really?
Coca-Cola with a vanilla and I mean, I haven't had that in years, but like in my mind, I like it.
I like that that's where you went because I immediately was like cherry Coke.
Oh,
And
but
you-
that is already a thing.
Yeah.
So they could
Cherry
do cherry.
limeade.
Perfect.
Love that.
Well, but now you're
Sonic does
speaking
that.
Sonic.
Yeah. But that's kind
Yeah,
of
that's similar. Same thing.
customized
Yeah, it
sodas.
is. I also think about cherry Coke. You know, that Pepsi Cola puts out cherry Coke.
Uh-huh.
And then you could add like a
A squirt of vanilla, or
I don't
lime.
know. Yeah, what else would you add in there?
honey.
Chocolate.
Ooh. I swear.
At DeBevics.
Okay, I just
Oh no, here we go.
there was a chocolate. There's such a thing as chocolate Coke, isn't there? Is that a thing? It's not a thing. Okay.
Well, it's not like an unknown thing, but they're not packaging it that you can buy. I don't believe,
I don't
least
think
in
so
this
either.
country,
But you can go somewhere and get chocolate Coke, which is like chocolate syrup in your Coke.
which would be this in my mind.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's this, but that's exactly where my like at DeBevics.
Yeah. Okay, my last fact before we get into the episode is, so the fact is called skiing on Mars. Sounds bizarre, but the Mars Society's Mars Desert Research Station is located in Utah's San Rafael Swell. The station simulates the conditions of a Mars mission, allowing researchers and astronauts to prepare for potential future missions to the red planet.
Cool.
Yeah, cool,
Really?
right?
Oh, I thought it was going to be a question.
No, just
That's awesome.
just a fact.
Because I can just picture Utah kind of red orange.
Yeah. So those are my Utah facts.
I have a question. You don't have to answer it. I know you don't know the answer.
Okay.
I wrote it down.
Okay.
But one of my questions is, how far from the Four Corners are we?
Oh, are we in this story?
Yes.
In Oakley.
I wrote it down.
I've been to the Four Corners. I would imagine, because I don't know it, so I'm going to be real quick, but I think Salt Lake City is kind of to the north of Utah. So I'd imagine kind of far, because the Four Corners is at the bottom corner
and
of Utah.
Oakley is what? Southeast?
45 minutes east of Salt Lake City.
Okay, what are on the Four Corners?
Utah,
Mm-hmm.
New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado. Is that right? I don't know. I think that's right.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yep.
Right. Yeah.
That's
yeah,
correct.
Yeah. Okay, good.
I just checked my Wikipedia in my brain.
Now, if the sunglasses you're wearing right now, if those were Google glasses, you could just click right into
I know, but you should never get those.
Why?
Sometimes I say, just put down the phone. Let's go into our brain.
Oh, I do that a lot now, thanks to you.
Yeah, it's
I
good.
actually do. All right. Well, there we go. There's our Oakley and Utah sense of place. All right. Well, settle in, get comfy, and
I'm comfortable.
let's jump into this Utah holiday murder. So before I start telling you the story, we're going to get to know the family that is kind of the focus of this story. And I am so glad that I watched some videos, because I would have otherwise pronounced this name totally wrong. It's spelled Tiede. How would you say that?
Tiede.
Tiede. That's what I thought.
Tide.
Or that.
Tiede. Okay, just tell me.
Tiede.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I would have never.
Tiede.
Tiede. Yep. Tiede. So we're going to be talking about the Tiede family, and that's who owned this cabin in Oakley, Utah. And they were from Houston. That's where they lived, but they were traveling to Oakley, Utah. They weren't from Houston. I'm sorry. Let me say that again.
They lived in Houston?
They lived in Houston, correct. So we're going to start with the grandmother, Beth Harmon Tidwell Potts was her name. And she was in her mid-70s from Murray, Utah. And she was born in 1914 in Utah and got married. This is interesting. That's why I'm sharing this. She married Claude Eugene Tidwell of Utah on February 14th, 1936. And he died in an automobile accident shortly after they got married. So then she married again. She married William Clifford Potts on November 5th, 1971.
Whoa, that's a lot of years later. That's like 40 years later.
Yeah. So maybe he didn't die too soon after they got married, but
Maybe he did, and she just didn't remarry.
So they were married, her second marriage, for 12 years, and then he died in an auto accident in 1983. Isn't that crazy? In that same accident where her second husband died, she was in the car, but she lived, but she lost her eyesight and much of her mobility. She was not fully paralyzed or immobile, but movement was difficult for her after that.
In 82, you said?
83, yeah.
83. So she was 70 almost.
Yep.
Wow.
And she, it's because our story takes place in 1990. So this was just 7 years before that when she went blind and became somewhat immobile. She was a member of Church of Latter-day Saints. And since the accident, she had been residing at Old Farm Residential Community near Murray, Utah, because she needed help living.
Like somewhat of an assisted living.
Right. Yep. And one of her granddaughters describes her as having lots of energy despite her accident. She still had lots of energy. She was fun, vivacious, happy. She loved to do the girls' hair, and she would even after her accident, which is surprising to me, she would perm their hair for them. So she, I think that when obviously she adapted to losing her eyesight.
Mm-hmm. Because think with a perm, especially something like that, my eyes are closed.
It's a lot of feeling.
Yeah, you could feel.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't know if she had more than 2 children. I know for sure she had 2 daughters. There may be more, but I'm only going to talk about 2 daughters that she had. So Kay Tidwell Tiede was born in 1941 in Nevada. She was 51 years old when our story takes place. And she married a man named Rolf Tiede.
How do you spell that?
R-O-L-F.
Oh, exactly how it sounds.
Uh-huh. In 1963, she married Rolf in Salt Lake City. And they eventually ended up moving to Humble, Texas, which was near Houston. Kay was described as being not only a great mother, but she was a friend to her kids. She never passed judgment on anyone, very loving, and was always willing to open up her home to anyone in need. And Rolf was also 51 at the time of our story. He was born in Germany, and he immigrated to the United States with his mom in 1950 and owned and operated Skyline Equipment, Inc. since 1969. So 19 years here, and he owned and operated his own company, which is impressive. And they had 3 children. So Rolf and Kay had 3 kids. Linae, I think is how you pronounce her name. It's Linae.
I like that name.
So I would assume it's Linae. At the time of our story, she was 20 years old. And her sister Trisha, was 16. I only know about Linae and Trisha later on in life. I don't know much about their childhood. So we're just going to fly right past that. And then apparently they also had a third child, Sean, and I could not find a single damn thing about Sean Tiede.
Well, guess what? I have a question that you could probably answer about Sean.
Okay.
Is he S-H or S-E?
S-H-A-U-N.
Oh, gosh,
Like
that's one I didn't think about. Because I
Sean
was
White.
thinking S-H-A-W-N,
Mm-hmm.
S-E-A-N.
Yeah, 3 different spellings. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
You don't want to miss what happens next in today's murder story, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after a short message from our sponsors.
And that's it. That's the Tiede family to the best of my understanding. So
Interesting.
our story takes place around Christmas time in 1990. And as Christmas was nearing, Linae and her younger sister Trish were eagerly anticipating leaving their suburban Houston home to spend the holidays with their parents, grandmother, and eventually extended family was supposed to also join at their family's cabin in the Utah mountains. Their mom, Kay, had nicknamed the cabin Tiede's Tranquility because it was nestled in Weber Canyon, close to OAKLEY, and known for its very serene and peaceful environment. Kay actually loved the aspen trees, I guess, that surrounded the cabin. She called them quakies because they're called quaking aspen because when they shake, it looks like they're in an earthquake, and they make this the leaves make this weird kind of crunching noise on the quaking aspen, apparently, in the wind. So, and it was such a secluded cabin that in the winter, the only way to get to the cabin was by snowmobile. because it's 2 miles from the main road. So you could drive on the main road to a certain point, and then you had to park in like I think there was a public parking lot kind of near, and then hop on snowmobiles and go the 2 miles via snowmobile to the actual cabin. So it was really kind of back there, up there and back there.
Well, does the snowmobile have anything to do with the way this ends?
Perhaps.
Oh, really?
Maybe.
Oh, I think you're lying now.
So the girls were very excited to head to the cabin. Kay had worked hard. She had gone out to the cabin and worked hard to decorate for the holidays. She wanted it to feel festive and cozy. There was already a large Christmas tree with lots of presents. She had hung stockings on the mantle, and everybody was ready to go and have a very festive holiday and escape from kind of their regular everyday lives.
I have a question that I don't think you have the answer to, but I'm just
Sure.
going to put it out there. They were LDS, Latter-day Saints.
Yes.
And do people who are in the Church of Latter-day Saints do anything different than what is mainstream, in my mind at least, for Christmas?
It's a great question. I don't know the answer.
Yeah, I'm
but
going to
you
write
should
it down.
You should write that down. That's a really good question. So on December 22nd, 1990, the whole family, Rolf, Kay, Lene, Trish, and Beth, the grandmother, all left to, they were in Salt Lake City finishing some last minute Christmas shopping. Unclear. Some accounts I read said that they spent the previous night in Salt Lake City, woke up, finished shopping, and then were heading to the cabin.
The bigger city to do
shopping. Yeah. Other things, other accounts I read said that morning they all headed into Salt Lake City. Again, remember, it's about 45 minutes away. Everyone was in good spirits, excited for the rest of the family to arrive, and anxious to kind of finish these last minute errands. Apparently they had a Christmas party at their cabin for family every year. And so they were, not only finishing last minute Christmas shopping, but getting all the food and snacks and all of that. Probably not alcohol, I'm guessing, though. Don't know.
That might be part of my answer to my, do they do anything different or omit anything?
Yeah,
or
that's true.
Maybe there's eggnog, but without the...
Not spiked.
Yeah, what did they... Anyways,
Bourbon, whiskey, and eggnog, I think.
That's right.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the family had no idea that while they were out running these errands, that their cabin was being broken into. So around 3:30 that day on the 22nd, Lene, Beth, the grandmother, and Kay, the mom, had headed back to the cabin prior to Rolf and Trish, the younger sister, and the dad. So Lene, Beth, and Kay arrived back at the cabin first, and they were blissfully unaware that anything was amiss inside the cabin. They took their snowmobiles, they got off, trudged through the snow, hurried inside, and put down their belongings to try and get warm after that 2-mile snowmobile trip. And Lene, actually, this is a direct quote from Lene describing kind of coming home. And she said, "My mom and Grams and I arrived at the cabin first, and my hands were freezing. It was a bitter cold winter that year. I asked my mom to hurry and unlock the door because I needed to run in and stick my hands under some hot water. And I told her after I did that, I would come back downstairs to help her. I got to the top of the stairs and I saw a gray flash go behind the refrigerator. And the first thought that popped into my mind was, oh, one of my cousins is here already. And they were going to jump out and say boo. But it didn't turn out that way. Behind the refrigerator came a frizzy-headed man in a gray sweatshirt with a pistol pointed directly at me.
Wow.
I assumed that he would just want to rob us and be on his way. As soon as my mom came to the top of the stairs out from the back bedroom, another robber with really thick Coke bottle glasses on came out and was pointing the gun at my mother. My mom started saying, what do you want? Why are you here? I'll give you anything. I don't have cash, but I can write you a check, whatever you want. Lene was terrified, obviously, and is trying to just keep her composure, but she's also noticing while they're being held at gunpoint in their own home, all of the Christmas presents were open, and that there was food that had been eaten out and around, and there were 2 big hunting rifles leaned up against the couch.
Okay, that's the one that, I get it. They opened the gifts and ate some food.
Sure.
They're taking whatever and eating whatever and doing whatever, but the hunting rifles. Whoa.
Yeah.
whoever these people are, I don't know, but they had to do the thing where after some point you have to get on the snowmobile.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of interesting because it's not a place that I wouldn't be typically worried that somebody was going to break in because it's
You're
so
not
hard
just
to
wandering
access.
in. I'd be worried about like a moose,
Sure.
but like not
or a bear.
Yeah, but not a burglar,
right,
or a murderer.
Yeah. So Lene went on saying, seconds after my mom said that, gunfire started. It was just exploding everywhere. I heard explosions everywhere. And suddenly I saw my mom go down. And I turned and looked over my shoulder at my grams. And at that instant, she was shot in the head. Blood sprayed everywhere. I heard her gasping for breath and fall to the ground. And then it was just dead silent. And I felt pretty sure that they were both dead. My thoughts immediately turned to knowing that within a few minutes, my dad and younger sister would be coming home. And I could remember actually hearing snowmobiles in the distance. And my heart started sinking, knowing that it was them and knowing that I had to try and get these men out of the house.
How the heck is she going to do that? Also, I mean, kudos is like a stupid word right here, but like, wow.
Well, I mean,
she went into like whatever the mode, survival mode, but also protection mode.
Yeah, which is crazy because she just saw her.
At least her grandmother for sure get shot. I don't know. I couldn't really tell if the mother.
The mother did get shot, and she later recalled that right before her mom was shot, she started praying, quietly praying for her life. And one of the men said, "There's no point. I worship the devil. It doesn't matter."
Oh.
And then he shot her, and the last thing she said, she grabbed her chest and said, "I've been shot," before she fell to the ground.
That's
so both
a factual
of them
statement to say right before you die. Wow.
Really is. Yeah. And so Lene had said that she was trying to plan. She said she knew there was a car and that her dad had left the car keys underneath the mat of the car. So that car, because you can't drive to the cabin, so the car is parked, 2 miles by the main road. And so in her head, she's thinking, I got to get these men out of the cabin and I just have to get to that car. And then my dad and sister will be safe. If I can get the men to that car, like they can leave.
But like, okay, she's going to however she gets them out of the house, then what? She's going to throw them on a snowmobile or we'll find out.
We shall. So that's what's going on in her head. And while she's thinking this, she's hearing snowmobiles getting closer and closer. And one of the men started to hear the snowmobiles too and grabbed her from behind around her neck and put his gun to her back. So while all of this was happening in the cabin, Trish and her dad, Rolf, had been in town. So I'm going back a little bit.
They have no idea.
No.
They're just coming home. They're thinking dinner. Also, I wondered if they saw well, I guess that could have been anyone's tracks. Snowmobile tracks.
Well, if they had seen tracks, they would have assumed it was
right. Their family.
Their family, right. So I'm going back a little bit, but Trish and Rolf are still in town checking out his store. And, wife, grandmother, sister have already gone towards the cabin and they're checking out. And Trish said to Rolf, something's wrong. Like, I don't know what's going on, but like, I have a really bad feeling. Can we call Mom? I feel like something's wrong. And he was kind of, they're literally checking out at the cash register. And he's like, okay. But he said she was so urgent she was like, so like, I just know it, Dad. Something's wrong. That he said, okay. And so
How old was she?
16. And so they found a payphone and called the cabin.
All these Gen Zers?
Gen
Xers? Gen Zers. They're all payphone. Just kidding.
And there was, I want to say that there was. 1990, there were like car.
Oh, yeah. Okay. But like not maybe
really.
Here.
Yeah. So they found a payphone. They called the cabin and it rang and rang and rang. No one answered. And Lene, in the cabin at this point, she remembers the phone. she heard the phone ringing.
Right, but there was
she heard the phone ringing.
Right, there was just a lot going on.
There's a lot going on. She heard the phone ringing, and it angered the men. The men heard it. It angered them so much that they ripped one of them ripped the phone out of the wall when it was ringing. So Rolf and Trish are in town calling. No one answers. and suddenly it just stops ringing. So he was like, hung up, called back, and the line was dead. It didn't go. The call didn't go through. So at this point, Trish is like, "Dad,
someone cut
gotta
the
go."
line or something.
So, yeah, they had ripped the phone out of the wall. Of course, Trish and Rolf don't know that in town,
Right.
but Trish now she already had a bad feeling. They called, no one answered. They called again, and it didn't go through. So now she's like, something is
Right.
fucking
That's something
wrong.
different. It's not just no one answered now.
Right. So she's
Also,
like, we got to go.
Listen to your intuition, friends.
They got in the car, drove, and then got on the snowmobiles, and we're heading back to the cabin as quickly as possible. And meanwhile, back at the cabin, Linnea was not only trying to get the men away from the cabin, but also trying to stay alive, hoping that they weren't going to kill her. She had just watched them kill her mom and grandmother like that, with no provocation. Like, you know what I mean?
They didn't really. It's not like they said, "We're gonna call the cops" or whatever.
Right.
Like they just. Well, you said one of them. The
mom
or
was like,
grandmother.
"I'll give you whatever you want.
I'll write you a
Yeah.
check. I'll do this.
Anything you want." And there was
that is curious.
there was no even. We want this or we're going to kill you. It was just out of.
Well, it
from what I
makes me
understand,
think
just nowhere. They just shot him.
It makes me think that their plan or their momentary plan was, we're just going to kill these people so we.
So there's no witnesses and we can whatever.
Yep.
So Linnea is begging them, saying, please leave. You can go to the car by the main road and take that. I won't tell anyone. And the men said, absolutely not. There's too many fingerprints. We can't leave the cabin like this. We're going to have to get rid of this evidence. So they covered Kay, the mom, and Beth, the grandmother, in blankets and pulled their bodies out to the front porch. I'm not totally sure why they did that, but
maybe so they could, I don't know, but so they can clean
the rest of the house, perhaps. Sure.
Yeah.
Linnea had said that as they were, they were struggling to pull the bodies out front, and that she was just sitting there and she heard one of the men get physically ill and throw up. And she asked him when he came back inside, she actually said, "Did you just throw up?" And he said, "Yes, because it was so disgusting that I can't believe I had to shoot that bitch in the head twice."
Oh, okay. Also, still to me, what my first thought is not that they're like good people that can't kill and that's why they got sick, but it's a human reaction.
Right.
Yeah. And maybe he fluffed his feathers up to say I had to shoot that bitch.
Yeah, he was acting like it
Also,
didn't bother him, but it clearly did.
It bothered you and you're still a
terrible person.
Maniac.
Yeah, maniac. So after this, the men told her, "Go pack a bag. We're going to escape and leave the state, and you're coming with us." Linnea was obviously terrified, didn't want to leave with these killers, but kind of saw this as her only opportunity to get them out of the house. So she was hurrying to pack a little bag. I mean, what do you pack in that situation? I don't need a bag. What do you mean, pack a bag? Oh, let me pack some clean underwear.
Right. I think you're going to kill me at some point, so
Exactly.
let me just pack nothing.
Nothing, yeah. So
I don't mace or a gun or a weapon if I had it.
I don't
believe they let her go in the room alone,
No.
though. Someone was watching her.
I'm sure.
No.
So Rolf and Trish are quickly approaching the property. Obviously Trish thinks something's wrong, but they have no idea the extent of, they don't even know for sure that something has happened.
They're going off a feeling.
So they pull up to the cabin, hop off their snowmobiles, and immediately as they hop off their snowmobile, a man in a mask jumps out pointing a gun at them and blocking their path to walk into the cabin, so they can't get in. He holds the gun to them, doesn't say anything, and forces them inside. Brings them inside, says, don't move, don't do anything. They see Linnea as they come in. Linnea's eyes are obviously filled with tears and fear, and she makes eye contact with her dad. And it was almost as if kind of they had like a conversation with their eyes silently. Like he knew in that moment something terrible had happened to his wife and mother-in-law.
Don't miss what happens next in today's episode. We'll be right back after a short message from our sponsors.
So he stayed silent. He didn't say anything. both of the men were in front of, one was holding Trish and one was holding Lene. And at the same time, they were both kind of hassling Rolf. They weren't holding him down, but they were holding him at gunpoint and saying, give us everything you have. Give us your money. Empty your pockets. Give us all the money you have.
Give us your watch, maybe.
Your watch, your
Yeah.
wallet, everything.
Yeah.
So he emptied his pockets, dropped everything onto the ground. And the man wearing the Coke bottle glasses was told by the other man to shoot him. So the non-glasses man said, shoot him, shoot him. And Lene and Trish both heard the gun cock, but the guy didn't pull the trigger. So then they're kind of like arguing a little bit, the two men. The other man who had instructed him to shoot him, who was holding Trish down, drew his gun out, pointed it at Rolf, and pulled the trigger. And it clicked, but nothing came out. He pulled the trigger again, nothing came out.
Jammed.
And then he pulled it again, and it came
Oh,
out.
no.
It discharged. And it was, they're all sitting within.
Killed Rolf.
Shot Rolf in the
Ooh.
face, actually. He immediately collapsed onto the floor.
Did it kill him?
Lene had said, I had no doubt in my mind, he's dead. Mom and Grams are dead.
Is Rolf actually dead?
I can't answer that yet.
I don't think he is. Because
So-
you specified in the face, not the head.
In the face, yes.
Go on.
So the men start talking about how they have to erase any trace of their crimes. And they had seen gasoline in the garage for the snowmobiles that Rolf always kept kind of...
Available.
Yes. Thank you. So they began dousing the entire cabin in gasoline. Really, they doused the upper floors of the cabin and then also Rolf. They poured it all over him. And then they set it on fire. And they hurried Trish and Lene outside and made Trish drive one snowmobile and Lene drive the other one, and one man on each one behind the girls. So the girls were forced to literally be the escape plan for these men who had just killed their entire family.
They are in like shock mode.
Oh my God.
Like,
Can you imagine?
They're just trying to survive at this point.
I can't.
How could we?
It's impossible I can't imagine seeing anybody be killed, let alone my parents and grandmother, and then and then seeing the whole house set on fire. And I am having to help these men escape. Ugh. So Trish had said, I had this feeling inside of me that we needed to listen and do what they said until the moment came where we could make our own escape. She said, I had all kinds of different plans running through my head. Should I wreck the snowmobile?
That's what I was thinking.
Could I throw him off into a tree? How can I get rid of him? But all I could think of is I can't leave my sister and she won't know what I'm going to do.
Right. And also I think if you're going to do something like that, I thought that too. Yeah, if you're alone, fine. Wreck it into a lake if you're a good swimmer or whatever. But also there's no one else out there.
There's no one around
to even help you if you do something kind of sketchy.
And let's say you hurt yourself,
right?
But you're still alive.
But no one's there to help.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and Lene was quoted as saying, I remember wanting to stay close enough that I could see my sister. It made me feel more secure knowing that at least she was still there. But ultimately, they were helpless. They were in the snowy mountains with no cell phones, no cell phone service. Their entire family has just been murdered in front of them and their house set on fire. So as the girls are driving these snowmobiles, helping these two men escape, Randy Zorn, who was Rolf's brother, so the girl's uncle, he was near the gate at the main road. So there was a gate off the main road that you go, where you hop on your snowmobiles and then go to the cabin. So he was just arriving for the festivities.
Huh.
And he had no idea, obviously, what had happened. So he was excited to get to the cabin.
Oof. Well, you better think again, bro.
All of a sudden, he's kind of, it's unclear, but this is how I pictured it, is that there's, the main road, and you park your car, parking lot or something there, and then there's a gate. The property is fenced in somewhat, so they can keep their snowmobiles there, and nobody's going to take them.
Yeah.
So, so he's coming in. He's right around there at the gate. It sounds like he was walking. I'm not sure.
Well, that also makes me think these two intruders, murderers, invaders,
all those
aggressors. I could go on. How did they get in? There's got to be a way. I get a gate. Like, a gate you can hop over mostly.
Well, yeah, I don't think it's like a gate.
It's a gate for cars or like something like
I picture it
automobiles.
almost like a cattle gate, like one of those big metal.
Right, where if you're on foot,
You just
can
walk through it. You can
or
duck
pop
under
over.
it. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if Randy, the uncle, had a snowmobile there that he was planning to get on or what, but he never had the chance because as he is coming through the gate or in that area, all of a sudden he sees the girls zooming up on snowmobiles, and he thought to himself, look, they're my nieces. I don't know. There's people on the back. Oh, maybe they brought boyfriends for the holidays.
I was just going to say that, yeah. He got excited.
He got excited.
Oh, they're greeting me.
Yep. And so he started to, he actually, direct quote is, I walked over to where they were pulling up to and tried to greet them and say hi. And I'm waving my hands and they just drove by me. And I thought, that's weird. My nieces wouldn't do that to me. They wouldn't just drive by.
And he probably didn't have enough time to really catch what their facial expressions were.
Of course.
Yeah.
But he did feel uneasy. He was like, that's weird. And Trish said they ignored him because they knew what are they? She knew.
Why would they focus on him? Because then that puts him as a target too.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
They said that if we waved or smiled or even said like, oh my God, there's our uncle, they would shoot him immediately.
Totally.
So they zoomed by their uncle and the killers, murderers, intruders, aggressors instructed the girls to pull the snowmobiles over and turn them off near the family car. They had a Lincoln that was parked on the edge of the property near the main road. And so they ditched the snowmobiles and instructed the girls to get into the car. The girls said the keys are under the mat. So
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing at this point. I really don't know. Well,
they're alive. So in my head at this point, I don't want to go with these guys. I don't want to get in the car, but at this point, at least I'm alive. So
and at least I don't have to stay here in the wintry forest with no one around. At least we have a way to more civilization.
Sure. I would probably rather it if they drove off and left me because my uncle's there and at some point somebody else is there. However, it's better than them shooting me right now. It means that I have opportunities to escape or get help at some point.
Yeah.
So Trish is quoted as saying, when we reached the family car, they had 2 guns. Each of them had a gun. The dark-headed man loaded his gun into the trunk. And as he loaded his gun in the trunk, he pulled his jacket open and showed me that he had a knife. And he looked at me dead in the eye and said, don't worry, I'm just as good with a knife as I am a gun. So all 4 got into the Lincoln. And I guess it's hard for me to picture this, but apparently they passed by their uncle again. So I think they drove off the property, right up to the car, got off the snowmobiles.
Maybe the road goes right here by the gate.
And the uncle, I think, when they drove past him,
went back.
Yes, he started going following them almost.
I'd feel more relief, not more relief. I'd feel a 1% relief when someone puts their gun off of them into the trunk, even if he's just as good with a knife. What about the other guy? He still has his gun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess 0.5 relief then.
So they got in the car and sped by Randy, their uncle, again. And now Randy is very concerned. He's like, something is wrong. But before he could even kind of compute any of this, he heard a snowmobile coming from the property. And to his shock, the driver was covered in blood. His head was incredibly swollen. His eyes were almost completely swollen shut. And because it was so cold, there was bloodsickles hanging off of him. He had no coat, no hat.
The guy that was shot in
no
the head.
gloves. And Randy's like, what is this? And as the person on the snowmobile gets closer, he realizes it's his brother, Rolf, who was shot in the face.
Yes.
Rolf said, I've been shot. My wife was killed and the girls have been kidnapped. Randy has some type of phone, not a great one, but he's trying to call 911, but he's not getting great service, obviously.
Oh my God, do they make it this far? You're obviously not going to answer. They make it this far, and then if they die, Rolf, also, where is he now? Go on.
So Randy shared, this is a direct quote from Randy. He said, I started heading down the canyon as fast as I could. I'm in a panic. He had a car there, so they got in his car. Rolf's in the back of my car, covered in blood, laying on the back seat. And he said, my cell phone really didn't work at all. It doesn't work up here. So I kept trying and trying, but I couldn't get through. And all I'm thinking is save the girls and get my brother in a helicopter. He called it a life flight. So he's driving and he caught up to the Lincoln, the car with the girls in it. He said, he says, I know the girls are kidnapped. I know these men have guns in that car. I'm going, what do I do? Do I run them off the road? And all of a sudden his service picked up and he got 911 on the phone. And the 911 operator said, tell me what direction they're going. We've got police in the area. He said, well, they're turning on the road towards Camas, a town called Camas. He said, and then I told her I need a helicopter, and then the phone went dead. So I pulled into a gas station, went to the payphone and called 911 again. And I said, I need a helicopter now at this gas station because Rolf is dying.
What do you call it? A life copter?
A life flight.
Life flight.
So
wow.
So now the girls are in the backseat of this Lincoln. They're terrified. The car, they're driving at 90 plus miles an hour, and they see a cop pass them going the opposite direction. The men immediately start to panic because the cop passes them, flips a quick bitch, and begins tailing them.
Also, even if that cop had no idea what's happening, even if it hadn't linked up to whatever,
yep,
they're speeding.
They're very, very speeding on this snowy, curvy mountain road.
Oh, no. Are they going to die off the mountain? Go on.
So the men are panicking when they notice the cop turned around and is following them. So they see a side road and they make a quick right and head down into this canyon. They go about another mile or so and then they lose control. And the car skids off the road and falls down into an embankment, like a little mini ravine off the side of the road. And Trish said, I looked up because the car was at this weird angle and I could see the entire road above us. And the car was just kind of dangling there. And I looked up and all of a sudden there's a ton of cops and everyone has guns drawn and pistols and rifles pointed directly at us. And I couldn't understand how there were so many people there so fast. And Lene said the cops all had their guns pointed at us and Trish screamed out, no, that's my sister. Don't shoot, don't shoot. And then Trish grabbed Lene's hand and said, duck. And so they both ducked down onto the floor and
let him shoot.
Yeah. And so the police, the sheriff, there's a sheriff, a deputy, and multiple other local police officers. They were there so quickly because apparently someone else called 911 back when they called 911 and said, I heard shots and I saw snowmobiles fleeing.
So like another home, like way out in the distance there.
Heard shots, looked out around and saw snowmobiles
Good
speeding away from the cabin.
Thank you, person.
So that's how they all got there so fast.
Wow.
They started firing at the car once the girls had ducked down.
Is the car not in like a promiscuous position?
It's not.
So it's not. Okay, that's what I was thinking. Like, I understand.
This is actually a picture of the car. So the road is up here.
Good.
It kind of fell down, dangled, and then
I was worried it was like,
right.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Wow, those girls are on it.
So
so they ducked down.
So they ducked down, and the officers fired 2 shots at one of the men because he got out of the car and they saw that he had a gun. So they then continued to shoot at him, but they didn't hit him, and he dropped his weapon and surrendered. And the other man also got out of the car and surrendered because, I mean, where are they going at this point? There was, from what I understand, quite a few officers there. So while this shootout and kind of surrendering of the suspects was happening, Rolf
was wondering about Rolf.
Airlifted to the University of Utah Medical Center in Salt Lake City in critical condition. But on the way to the hospital, he managed to explain to the first responders that he had been, they're trying to keep him talking, I would imagine.
Yeah, of course. But still, that he said whatever he's about to say.
He said that he played dead after they shot him. He was still alive. They shot him, but he was still alive somehow. And they poured gasoline all over him, and he continued to play dead even once he was on fire. They set everything on fire. He was on fire, And once he heard the snowmobile start to drive away, he got up, ran to the shower because his snowsuit he was wearing a snowsuit and that was on fire. He was able to get it off in the shower, but that's why he had like no clothes on
I didn't know he had no clothes on.
He had on, I think, pants, but he
Right.
had on no shirt. He was bare chested, from what I understand.
I mean, the survival instinct, I don't know if it's of people or of Ralph. I think a bit of Ralph and people in general, but Ralph is like to the nth degree.
Oh my God, he was shot in the head. It didn't like graze him. Like he was
Right,
fully
he was
shot.
bleeding out.
In the head, bleeding out, on fire, got in the shower to put the fire out, ripped his snowsuit off, stumbled to the snowmobile, rode 2 miles to the gate in frigid temperatures with a bullet in his head. And he said that all he could think was, I can't let them take my girls. They've already killed my wife and my mother-in-law. I can't let them get my girls. And apparently he was very lucky because they used the wrong gun when they shot him. They used something called a bird shot. It was apparently very ineffective. However, it's still very low odds of having survived that. It's like 1 in 10,000 odds that you would live through a close range shot in the head. And I don't know.
Well, and then being set on fire and
right,
this and that.
Exactly. So, but a bird shot, I should have looked that up. So that would be a good
on
thing.
lookup list.
Brad Wild was a deputy who was one of the first to come upon the crime scene because now, as suspects have been apprehended, girls are now, I'm assuming, being taken to the hospital. Rolf is being airlifted, and now police are arriving to the cabin. And so Brad Wild, the deputy, said, hundreds of crime scenes later, this one ranks right up there. It's very vivid and one of the worst. When I got about 10 feet from the door, I could smell burnt hair and fabric like clothes burning. So I entered the garage. There was a 12 to 18-inch wide puddle of blood that was very fresh. I started up the stairwell and could see bullet holes in the wall going through one wall to the other. There was blood smears on the wall, bloody handprints. It looked like a mini war zone. And there were 2 bodies on the upper deck. Checked for a pulse, but there was none. And I actually walked into a room that was filled with smoke before I realized that the entire top floor of the cabin was still on fire on the inside. It hadn't made its way through, where you could see it from the outside yet. And so then he was like, then our mindset went into protecting the property because we didn't want it to burn down to the ground.
Also because I guess they don't need evidence because they have the people.
Right. As they got the fire out, they continued to investigate. There was, lots of blood, fingerprints. Again, yes, they're still going to process the crime scene, but sure, not really that necessary. The carpet in the living room was so saturated with blood that it had gone through, and you could, I guess when you're standing under that floor, it was seeping through to the floor underneath. The authorities, initially wanted to make sure there wasn't anybody else in there who was alive, who might need help. And then they wanted to kind of preserve as much as they could from the crime scene. And one of the most crucial pieces of evidence that they were trying to, before, they got the fire out, but the areas where the fire had been, they wanted to try and get whatever they could out of there. And there was a video camera with a videotape. And one of the lead investigators quickly after this initial day watched the videotape, and he thought, at least we can save this family memory for them. He thought it would be like, family time.
They videoed their murderers.
No, it was a video that the suspects had taken of themselves, eating all the food, opening the presents, talking about, murdering. And that video is actually online, so I'll have to show it to you, or maybe I'll have to post it.
I'd love to see it.
Yeah. These people are horror. They
obviously got arrested and imprisoned.
So who were these men?
Yeah. What's the connection, if there is any?
So the suspects were identified as Von Lester Taylor, 25, and Edward Stephen Deli, 21. They were both recent Utah State Prison parolees who had been staying at Salt Lake City's Orange Street Community Center, a halfway house, until they had failed to return from job hunting. They were allowed to go out job hunting on December 14th. This all happened on December 22nd. So apparently they had hitchhiked to the mountain town because Taylor Von Taylor had relatives that owned a cabin in this area, he believed. So they hitchhiked up to the mountain and then broke into unoccupied cabins, stayed there for a night or two.
It wasn't this family in particular.
Mm-mm.
It just happened that family was there when they broke in. They were breaking in to get shit.
Well, what officials actually think is that they had broken into several cabins in the area where nobody was there. It was like a vacation home. They were empty. And then they saw this family and they watched them for a day or two. And so when they left to go shopping, they then broke into the home.
So, okay. So based on that, my thought is they didn't want to be imprisoned or in the halfway house. They wanted to break out. Did they want to murder these people? I
think that they did, because otherwise, why would they stay? They waited.
Well, I would think they waited so they could get their presents and goodies and money and
But no one
burglarize
was
the
home.
home.
They could have burglarized the home while the Tiedes were in Salt Lake City. They were gone for hours.
Okay, so they
So why would
waited
they
till someone was home.
Yes.
Oh, well, then they wanted to do something.
Yeah. So Edward Delly, the younger one, 21, he had been in prison for 5 years for arson.
Whoa, 5 years since he was a minor.
Uh-huh. And the other one, Von Taylor, was serving 1 to 15 years for aggravated burglary. But they both got paroled and had both been transferred to this halfway house, went looking for jobs, and then never came back.
Mm-hmm. So no real connection.
No connection to this family whatsoever at all. And really no reason to wait for them to come home to murder them. Like, they could have taken the presents, taken the food, and gone on to the next cabin.
Someone liked to burglarize. Someone liked to set shit on fire.
Yep.
Oy.
Yep. So each was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count of attempted first-degree murder, and 2 counts of aggravated kidnapping, in addition to aggravated assault, theft, arson, and failure to heed a police signal to stop. One of the lawyers involved in this said this may appear to be a slam dunk case, but from an investigator's point of view, it was complicated and complex. It's not a whodunit. There was no question who committed the crimes, but being able to determine what criminal act each one of them committed.
Oh, yeah. How do you parse it apart?
Right. That was a challenge.
Yeah.
So even though Vaughn and Edward stood side by side in court while these charges were presented to them, this is where the similarities in their legal paths ended. Their kind of course to justice completely diverged, and they both went 2 different routes, this is really interesting to me. They ended up with different legal representatives. They faced different juries, and they underwent distinctly different procedures. The legal action, which I'm going to tell you what happened to both of them, obviously, it differed. But Trish and Lene testified against both of them, and apparently were excellent witnesses. But it came at a personal cost, and I have pictures of both girls in court. They not only had to testify, the lawyers made the girls hold the guns that shot their mom and grandmother and father, so that they could reenact, hold the gun and show us where it was. And they held the actual gun. I mean, I find it hard to believe that would be allowed today. I don't know.
Oh, I don't know about allowed. I just mean,
awful.
Or I just think,
how traumatizing.
and also, if you think it's going to help put these
Men away.
MFs
Well,
away.
I have to assume that's why the girls did it. I love this, that, neither of the men knew. They assumed that Rolf was dead. So all of a sudden, Rolf, he also testified.
What's up with Rolf?
So as soon
He
as
survived.
Rolf comes rolling into the courtroom, Trish said, "I remember watching the look on
that's amazing.
Edward's face as he saw my father. It was very apparent that he had no idea my dad had survived. The look on his face was priceless, like he had just been defeated. My dad survived, so we won."
Wow, that's amazing.
This
is all
awful
shit.
Yeah,
dog shit, awfulness.
Awful.
But that is amazing.
Yeah, that
Rolf
is a hero. So Von Taylor pled guilty for 2 murders, which meant that they dismissed all the other charges.
Oh, He did like a plea deal.
So even though he didn't go to trial and he had a plea deal, he still had to face a jury to determine his punishment. It was either life in prison or death. During his testimony, where he spoke to the jury and the judge, he was unhelpful. He was kind of standoffish, and he had apparently like selective memory. He said, I remember holding a gun, but I never fired it. It happened so quickly, I don't really know. He showed no regret, and the jury sentenced him to death.
And is he dead?
The other guy, I'm just going to brush over that question.
Yeah.
Edward Delly opted to go to trial because his lawyer argued that Von Taylor was responsible for the shootings.
Interesting.
And so that is where Trish and Lene had to take the stand and were cross-examined. The outcome of his case was second-degree murder conviction. So death penalty was eliminated.
Wow.
The family was shocked because why wasn't it first degree? You know?
Wow.
And it turns out that the jury, everyone on the jury wanted to convict him on first degree murder except for one person.
Right. It has to be all right.
And so the compromise that the jury came to because of this one person, instead of, having a mistrial, instead of putting the family through having to go to another trial, they decided we'll compromise. We'll
life
convict
in
him
prison.
on second degree murder, which is life in prison. Yeah. So Von Taylor, death sentence. Edward Delly, life in prison. Edward Delly, life in prison. So that's it. He's in prison still today.
What prison? Utah somewhere?
Uh-huh. And Von Taylor, so Edward has, seemingly accepted his punishment. What else is he going to do? But Von Taylor has appealed and appealed and appealed.
Right. He's not dead yet.
He is not dead yet. He has appealed 5 times, actually. Yeah. His third appeal to the Utah Supreme Court, his lawyer said that the autopsy findings indicate that he's innocent factually, because it turns out that Kay and Beth, the mom and grandma, were killed by a .44 Magnum, which is the gun that Edward Delly was carrying.
Right.
Not Taylor's .38 Special.
And, guess what? Who knows what happened in that mix-up?
They could have switched guns. He could have been holding, and also it doesn't
matter ultimately, because this is the justice system. And also, he's still in prison. To me, in some ways, I don't know. I haven't been in long-term prison. I haven't been in prison, period. But that's
seems worse almost.
It's just, I don't know. Yeah,
I don't know
He's
either.
still locked up. I'm glad about that. That's the best thing I'll say.
Well, and he continues to argue that he did not do the actual killing. He was involved, but he was not the murderer.
And that may be true.
Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Unfortunately, in 2020, a U.S. District Court judge seemed to agree with him and overturned his death penalty sentence, saying that he was not given adequate defense from his public defender.
Oh, that's a shit on the public defender. Ooh.
Luckily, a year later, a federal appeals court reinstated his death penalty. He's now back on death row. Because even if he didn't fire the fatal shots, this is interesting. Apparently, Utah law says that accomplices are equally guilty as perpetrators. So he can't be considered innocent in any way.
Right.
So luckily, it's good that he's back on death row. However, it does not, there's no immediate execution. They've waited more than 30 years to see him executed, and they shouldn't have to wait any longer. However, they probably will. He's 58 years old now, has been on death row for over 32 years.
Wow.
And Lene and Trish are still waiting and vow that they will be there whenever he is executed. They want to be there to watch.
I totally, don't totally understand that. I can, to the best of my ability, understand why I'd want to be there.
Sure.
I'd also, first off, let me say, I'd want to know when it's
I don't think I could watch it.
He got the death penalty.
Right.
What I worry for them or anyone is that may, not that they feel sad for him, but as a human, to watch another human die, Like that might cause them more trauma, and they've been through enough. Also, I support whatever they want to do. I have no fucking clue because I'm not in that situation.
I can't think of, I always, not that I've thought about this a whole lot, but I think I have thought about this, and in the past I've thought I would want to be there. I'd want to see that. And this is
Would
stupid.
you want to see that just in general?
No, because that's what I was going to say.
A killer of your loved one.
There's some, I can't remember now. I'm going to have to find it. There was some show. There's some show somewhat recently, and you watch somebody be put to death very...
Yeah, and like the mother or daughter's there.
Yeah, and I mean, I actually
They're
had to look
all
away.
behind the thing.
Right, but it's...
And they lethal injection him.
And it takes
them.
Takes a good
some people have a bad reaction.
He pees on himself. I mean, it's awful.
I mean,
it's
I
awful.
assume you'd pee and shit and all the things.
I may feel differently if that person had killed dad or mom or you or, or one of our grandparents or something. I don't know. It's really hard to put myself in that position. I don't know. But I will say that Trish and Lene have kind of worked really hard to not let those events from 1990 define them. They rebuilt the cabin and made new memories there after it was rebuilt. Apparently Rolf had a big hand in rebuilding it, made it better than it was before. They spent a lot of time there over the years, enjoying it with family and friends. Rolf remarried a woman named Donna, gained 2 stepchildren. And this was, I read this somewhere, that Donna and Rolf were inseparable. They owned and ran a laundry equipment company together. They loved to travel all over their world. Their favorite place was Hawaii. And they were very much in love and really perfect for each other. Rolf died in November 19th, 2008. I don't know from what. Donna died. His second wife died just last February from Alzheimer's.
Woof.
Lene apparently got married about a year after this all happened, which is fascinating to me. I wonder if she was
I wonder if she was dating the person beforehand. Also, either which way, wow.
That ended in divorce. And then she married again, apparently one of her somebody she was childhood sweethearts with, Nathan. And she says that Nathan changed her, and they have a blended family with 9 children between them. So she had children from her first marriage. He had children from his.
Who had the 5 or the 4 or the I mean, Jesus Christ.
It's a lot of kids.
But hallelujah.
Yeah. So they seemingly are happy. I want to say she moved to Montana, I think. I believe she moved to Montana.
Wow. I think this is a really interesting story. I like the ones, I don't like, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
Where seemingly have nothing, I couldn't have guessed, except for they have nothing to do with this. There's no connection. That's scary as shit too.
Oh, it's my biggest fear
but
is
there's
a random home invasion.
Connection.
No, they had no, and that's what's the most confusing to me that I really couldn't find any explanation for is like,
well, they were looking to kill what you thought.
They were murderers, I guess. That's the only thing I can think. So
crazy.
The last update I have before we close this one out is on Trish. So Trish married and became Trisha Tiede Copenhaver, and then she divorced. She has 2 little girls. She, says that she loves her life now, that it doesn't define her, but that incident doesn't define her, but helped make her who she is today. And then I found a news article on her, and I read it, and I was like, no, this can't be the same person, but it sure is. She was charged with child endangerment. And I will say that I read this, and I think... I don't think she's a bad mother. I think this was kind of like police having to do their job. But apparently she was
How old was she? 16?
16, yeah.
So she's maybe around my age or a little bit older.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow, that's insane.
Yeah. So she was at a Verizon wireless store about 6 p.m. And apparently she told one of her daughters, if you don't stop playing games, I'm going to leave you. and the girl ignored her. And so she got into her car, and to teach the girl a lesson, she drove around the store twice. And every time she drove around, she looked in to make sure her daughter was still there, still playing games inside. And then she eventually, went in and got her. But at that point, the girl her daughter had gone to like an employee and said, "Can you help me find my mom?" And they called the police. The police came and arrested her for
child endangerment.
For child endangerment. She posted a $5,000 bail and got out. I
don't want to make it seem like that's not a real thing, but also life happens, right? And that
Also,
if it played out like that, like okay.
Yeah.
Like I already had that thought of like, also people are terrible. And
she didn't drive home and leave her kid there.
I mean, even if she did.
I mean, she drove around the store.
She
was
drove home and came
her.
right back.
Yeah.
It's like she was
fine. She was 8 years old. She was in the cell phone playing games on the cell phone. She was fine. But I get
it's a bad decision according to law.
I think it's kind of a good decision in terms of parenting, like
right, but not
lesson.
If you have to go through all that.
Right, no, and that was actually I'm wrong. That was I believe 2013, so that was 10 years ago. So she's 49 now. She was 16 in 1990.
That makes sense because I was 5 or 6. Yeah. 5, yeah.
So
4, 3.
I have a lot of pictures that I'll have to post because it's.
You're gonna show me offline.
Yes, I will show you in a second, but so that people don't have to listen to us.
Right.
Showing
offline.
the pictures. Yes, that's what offline means.
Offline.
And for anybody who's interested, Kay, who got shot and murdered, her sister, so the girl's aunt, Claudia, she wrote a book called Murder, Death, and Rebirth about how she personally coped with the murders of her mother and sister.
Wow, that is a heavy thing.
Yeah. I mean, she
your
wasn't
mother
there,
and
but
your
right,
but you lose both your. Maybe that was her only family, her sibling and her parents.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, her dad,
I would imagine it is because
even if her,
I don't know.
It's a lot of loss.
It's
let's
a
say
lot
that.
of loss. It's a lot of loss.
Thank God she wasn't there.
Whew, what a story.
Wow. I don't like it, but I really like it.
Yeah. It was a fascinating one.
It was a good one. It was actually strange and odd.
I had read this story and started writing it, I don't know, 6 months ago maybe. And I was like, well, there's no suspense in this.
There actually is.
And there is. And truthfully, I chose it because it takes place around Christmas. I'm going to try and do holiday ones, which also feels a little bit odd. Like, let me tell you some holiday murder stories. But, it's a true crime podcast.
It's seasonal.
Holidays. Seasonal. There we go.
Like it takes place around the same time as we are in now.
Right. So,
wow.
Yeah, that's.
I like it.
I
don't like it. I keep saying that.
Well, hopefully you guys liked it enough, and
I thought it was a really interesting
and a story filled with like bravery. Like that's incredible what Rolf did. What a guy.
Also those girls.
I
mean, any of them.
Yeah.
I mean, him especially.
Yeah,
but
the
human survival instinct.
The will to live.
You don't even think. I don't know because I haven't been there, but like the best of my ability, the one time I kind of been in a bad situation, you don't think, you just go.
I'm going to need to know about that offline as well.
Well, yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you for listening. We are happy to be back, and
I've been back this whole time, you guys.
I'm happy to be back, and happy to be back recording with Jenna. And we will be we'll be back next week with a new episode. So thank you for listening. Go find us on social media, Patreon, etc. And happy holiday season.
If you celebrate, hug your loved ones.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Death by Southwest is hosted by Jenna Schneider and Margot Carmichael.
Executive produced by Margot Carmichael.
Produced by Jenna Schneider.
Audio editing and sound design by Margot Carmichael.
Music by Soundstripe.
And a special thanks to Edward R. Murrow for letting us borrow his famous sign-off phrase, "Good night and good luck."